أهلا بيكم في دروس الأحياء للصف الثاني ثانوي لغات. Today we will start our first lecture in transport, and we will be talking about transport in plants. So let's begin. First of all, the concept of transport and the need for it. When we talk about plants, in primitive plants like algae, they don't need a special system for transport because the formed materials due to the photosynthesis move from one cell to another by diffusion and active transport. In higher plants, gases move by diffusion, but the other elements formed by the photosynthesis, they need a specialized vascular tissue for their transport. And this is what we will study. The xylem and the phlegm system in plants. This is the system for the major system for their transport. In case of animals, after the digestion and absorption of elements from food, they need a special system for transport because diffusion is insufficient. Diffusion is sufficient in primitive animals like Hydra and Protozoa because both gases and food substances move by diffusion. But this is not the case in more complex animals, in higher animals. So the presence of a specialized transport system is essential in these animals. So expect we'll be talking about transport in higher plants and the transport in higher animals in the next lectures. Transport in higher plants. Transport from the roots to be delivered to the rest of the plant, like stems and leaves. This is carried out by the xylem. The xylem, the solutes reach the xylem system through the root. Remember, we talked about that in nutrition by process of imbibition in the root hair. And remember that, and diffusion from cell to cell until it reaches to the inside to the xylem system. On the opposite direction, on the other hand, the products of photosynthesis are carried out by another system called the phlegm system. The phlegm system and the xylem system make a network in the plant to cover the whole plant, either leaves or stems or roots. So to study these transport systems will be a cut section we'll study a cut section in a young stem and see what is composed of. First of all this thickness here you see is the cortex. Okay, and the rest is the main core of the young stem. The cortex, first row of cells is epidermis, barrel-shaped cells, as you can see here. Barrel-shaped parenchyma cells, and the outer walls are covered by a layer of cutin or cuticle. Also, this is the epidermis that covers the cortex. The cortex itself made of several rows of collenchymal cells. See these collenchymal cells? They are thickened at the corners by deposition of cellulose. They form a mechanical support system for the stem and the plant. And also, as a support function, they contain chlorophyll, so they are the site of the photosynthesis. Abundance of chlorophyll in this layer of cells, which is the collenchymal cell. After this collenchymal cell layer is another row of cells called parenchymal cells or parenchymal cells with plenty of intercellular spaces in between. And the innermost of these layers is the starch sheath, or the place or the layer where starch is stored as starch grains. See? So you have the epidermis, then the beginning of the cortex by collenchymal cells and parenchymal cells, and they are for the support of the plant, and the starch sheath, which is for storage of starch, the product of photosynthesis. After the cortex is the vascular cylinder, as the one you see here in the middle, and formed of different layers. The first layer is the pericycle. You can see here parenchyma cells alternates with groups of fibers. Why is that? Okay, for the support of the plant, to make the stem strong and elastic. This is the pericycle cell layer. Vascular bundles involve series of tubes and sieve-like structures. This is including the xylem and the phlegm. The bundles, the vascular bundles, composed of first of all the phlegm, which is the outer tissue of the vascular bundle, and consists of sieve-like, and we will study the cells later, and sieve-like cells and companion cells, and the phlegm parenchyma. The function of the phlegm is to deliver transport of organic substances from the leaves to the other parts of the plant in all directions, either upwards or downwards. Another layer is called the cambium, a cell layer. This is a layer of undifferentiated cells capable of division, called meristematic cells. When they divide, they give externally they give a phlegm, internally they give a xylem. Okay, externally they give a phlegm, internally they give a xylem. What else in the xylem bundle? What else in the vascular bundle is the xylem? Consists of vessels and tracheids. Vessels are elongated cylindrical cells joined end to end, and the barriers between them, the plates separating each other, has been completely dissolved, so it forms one tube, continuous cells. And cellulose has become thickened by lignin, which is impermeable to water and solutes. Protoplasmic content has died, leaving a hollow vessel. This is the vessel. Also, in the wall of the vessel, numerous pits. There are numerous pits that allows for the water to pass through. And from the inside, lignin has made, thickenings in an annular and spiral manner. This is for the support of the vessel and prevents the collapse of its wall. Tracheids, on the other hand, they are like vessels, but their cut section is pentagonal or hexagonal, and their ends are not open but pointed and closed, as you can see here. So the xylem composed of vessels and tracheids. What else? The xylem parenchyma, a layer of xylem parenchyma, as you can see here, one row of cells between the xylem vessels, and it's communicates with those of different parts of the leaf of the plant. The phlegm system also connects with each other and covers the whole plant and makes a network of vessels spreads all over the plant. Another layer called the pith occupies the center of the stem, and it's for storage purposes. The last layer is medullary rays. As you can see here, this layer, they extend between the vascular bundles and in the form of parenchyma cells to join the cortex with the pith. The mechanism of transport of water and mineral salts from the root to the leaf is through the xylem system. So we now know what is the xylem made of. Made of all the layers that we studied before, including xylem, parenchyma, pith, and medullary rays. And it's responsible for conveying or distributing the solute absorbed through the root hairs to the inside of the plant and deliver it to the rest of the plant, to cover the rest of the plant. The phlegm works on the opposite side. Okay, how does sap ascend? Some plants reach several meters high, and they wanted to know how the sap absorbed from the soil, even through the special transport system. How is the sap conducted to high altitudes, the high length? Some like long trees, for example, like pinus and coniferum trees. So there were theories to explain how. First of all, if you cut the stem of the plant and you watch it, you see a solute coming out of it that pass through the roots. This is called exudation. But exudation is explained because of the osmotic gradient or the osmotic difference between inside of the root and outside. But it's not enough to push the fluid high up to high altitudes. At this level, when it's just when the solute or the water absorbed ascends for a certain limit, it stops because the opposing pressure of water column in the xylem vessels has become equal to the root pressure. Maximum root pressure does not exceed 2 atmospheres, so it does not convey water to enough high length to cover the plant. So it's not a totally convincing theory. Okay, and some plants even don't have root pressure, like the شجر الصنوبر, pinus tree, and conifers. نوع تاني من الصنوبر زي لو تفتكروا في صنوبر كده اشجار بتطلع مخاريط خشبيه كده اللي هي كان فيها الصنوبر. دول اسمهم conifers. They have no root pressure. So the root pressure is not enough for ascent of the water in the plant. What else? Well, they tried to impose the imbibition theory, the one we studied in nutrition, but imbibition itself depends on the colloidal nature of cellulose and lignin, has helped the walls of the xylem vessels imbibe water. But this explains only ascent through the walls and not to a higher length. But the water ascends in the cavity of the vessels and xylem vessels and not along their walls only. Okay, so this does not explain the ascent of the fluid inside the cavity of the xylem vessel. This is the imbibition theory. Another theory is capillarity theory. The ability of water to ascend in capillary tubes, very thin tubes, 0.02 millimeters to 0.5 millimeters. by itself it ascends in the capillary by the using the phenomenon of capillarity. But capillarity, the maximum height water can reach is 150 centimeters. So this is not explanatory for the ascent of vessels to high levels. The final theory, which is the more convincing and it's used now, is the transpiration pull cohesion adhesion theory. Transpiration pull, it means water is continuously evaporating from the leaves. This makes the water inside them more concentrated, and this makes a drag on the water below. This is the transpiration pull, maintains the column of water always be there. It's proven by two scientists called Dixon and Jolly, and they proved that the principal forces which pull the water upward to a very high level is the transpiration one. They found out that for the water to ascend, it depends on the following forces. Cohesive force, due to the attraction between the molecules of water itself, so it pulls itself, maintains itself as a column of water inside the plant. This is the cohesive force. Adhesive force is between the water molecules and the wall of the vessel. لما يبقى في عندك كوبايه فيها ميه وتفضي الميه اللي فيها، مش معنى كده انها نشفت تماما، الميه لسه لازقه على الوولز. ده اسمه الادهيسيف فورس، ودي اللي بتساعد في ان العمود الميه برضو water column to be still there, hanging there. What else? Transpiration pull, I told you it's because of the continuous process of evaporation from the leaves. Okay, that maintains a kind of continuous pull upwards at high levels. They shown out that water has been shown to have a high pulling force in tubes under the following conditions. It must be a capillary tube, of course, must possess an adhesive force, the walls, and the tubes must be free of any gas or air bubbles so as not to interrupt the column of water inside the plant. So all the forces are joined together to maintain the column of water inside the plant, and all this exists in the xylem vessels. Now, there is a question, why some seedlings, when transplanted from a nursery to open soil, fail to grow if they remain exposed to the sun for a long time before they are transplanted. Well, exposure to the sun means more evaporation, means the water inside these areas will be concentrated. The water itself will be in less amounts, so the water content will be concentrated, and this maintains a kind of a pull or affinity on the column of water inside the plant. In such case, will lessen the water content and increase their concentration. This state will create diffusion pressure for the water. It's a pulling force which attracts water from the surrounding cells. Now for the transport in the opposite direction. What about transport of manufactured food from the leaf to the other parts of the plant? This is carried out by the phlegm. The phlegm, the role of the phlegm is to distribute food in all directions. It distributes the products of photosynthesis in all directions, upwards and downwards. How does it make that? The phlegm consists of sieve tubes. sieve معناها زي المنخل. sieve tubes عبارة عن cells where cells دي connected end to end with each other وفيها cytoplasm without a nucleus والcells دي محاطة حواليها بcompanion cells. الcompanion cells فيها nuclei وفيها ribosomes وهي اللي controls الsieve cells. تمام؟ اللي هم connected end to end. Inside the sieve tubes are separated from each other by cross walls. لكن الcross walls دي مش completely obliterates the connection between the two cells. No, it is sieve-like with the cytoplasmic processes of each cell passing through this sieve-like cell to communicate with the neighboring cells through this cytoplasmic extensions, and that extend through the tiny pores of the barrier between the cells. Experiments have proved that the role of the sieve tubes in the transport of ready-made food substances to various parts of the plant, and the experiments included the following. Two scientists, Rapidin and Bohr, they used, carbon-labeled gas, CO2 gas, using the radioactive C14 that will, as we studied in nutrition, the carbon dioxide is responsible for formation of the carbohydrates due to photosynthesis. So the formed يبقى الكربوهيدرات اللي متكون هياخد بالكربون اللي موجودة في ال CO2 اللي هي الكربون C14 ونقدر بعد كده نتبع هو الغذاء ده بيروح ازاي وبيتوزع ازاي. Can be traced during their path in the plant. تمام. ايه اللي اكتشفوه انه الفود ده بقى translocated upwards as well as downwards in the stem. الاثنين علماء دول. ايه كمان؟ scientist ميتلر استعمل حشرة اسمها الأيفيد انسكت. الأيفيد انسكت دي حشرة بتفضل تتغلغل لجوه النبات لغاية ما توصل للسيف سيلز دي وبتحط فيها الماوث بارتس بتاعتها. فهو عمل ايه؟ استناها لغاية ما وصلت لجوه وقام فاصل البادي تماما عن الماوث بارت بتاع الحشرة دي وشاف ايه اللي موجود في الماوث بارتس. لقاه عبارة عن substances formed or products of photosynthesis. اوكي. اتنين علماء تانيين اسمهم ثين اند كاني حبوا يدرسوا اللونج cytoplasmic threads علشان يشوفوا transport of organic substances in the phlegm. Cytoplasmic threads دي contain organic substances inside the tubes and they extend through tiny pores from one tube to another. They explain the transportation of the organic substances in the phlegm on the basis of حاجة اسمها cytoplasmic streaming. معناها ان cytoplasmic circular movement inside the sieve tubes and companion cells. During that, the organic substances are translocated between one another. Okay? They explained also that this activity needs ATP molecules, so it consumes energy. ده لازمة وجود ايه كمان؟ companion cells. The companion cells provides this ATP. اوكي. ولقوا ان الترانسبورت ده بيتأثر بالديكريس in temperature او oxygen in cells. Well, these are the theories by which they explained the transport inside the plant. I hope you got the maximum benefit from this lecture and thank you very much for watching.